Hello and welcome to another edition of Tuesday Evening Scratch Basics. This is part 2 in our Winter Labyrinth Holiday Extravaganza Scratch project. We are going to take a quick second to look at what we've done and then get started on the next steps. First off, we are looking at what we did previously. We have our little cat who can move around. We have a start button and a start screen. And they can just kind of wander around. Excellent. Okay, so we are able to do that with coding specifically for the arrows, up, down, left, right. We have our lab that we made through the costume tab. Excellent. And we have our opening screen that we have also through the costume tab that we coded to show up as the first thing. So let's get started. The main thing with this labyrinth, which if you want to know the difference between a labyrinth and a maze, check out the first video, is that these walls should not be able to just go through like that. So the first thing we need to do is figure out a way to make these walls impassable, to make them not able to get through. And the way we do that is pretty simple, thankfully. We need to tell Scratch that when the little mouse is touching these walls, instead of going through them, it gets shoved backwards. So the way we do that is we're going to go to Control. We're going to grab a if-then statement. We're going to go to Sensing. We're going to grab Touching Color. Right now mine is green. I'm sure yours will be different. And we're going to change that touching color from green to black. And to do that, we're just going to adjust these sliders so that they're all the way to the left. Excellent, because that is the color of the walls. Obviously, if you change the wall color, you're going to want to change this, but just be aware of that. We're going to then take that touching color black into our if-then statement as the condition, and we're going to change up what's in here. What that's going to be is we need to look at each of the arrow keys pressed, because we need to put in here for it to change either the X or the Y by the opposite number that's in there. So for example, with the right arrow, it changes X by 5. So we need to do the opposite of that and change X, where'd it go? There it is, by -5. Perfect. And we're going to duplicate this one more time because we need to do it for the left arrow. So instead of -5, we're going to make this a +5. And we're going to slot that in right after that change X by 5. So still inside this first, so we want to slot it inside the if-then of the right arrow key. So we're going to do the same thing with the left, right after. And we're going to do the same thing for the up and down, which uses, again, the sensing, change the color. And instead of X, we're going to change Y. Again, pop them in right after those blue changes. We're going to hit stop and the green flag so the game resets. We're going to hit start. Now let's see if this worked. As you can see, the cat cannot go through the walls because when we're pressing on the walls, it's pushing back with an opposite but equal force. Oops, looks like this section is a little too small. Let me pop into Lab, go to Costume, and change that. It's a little too... Let's test this out. And I'll just speed this up real quick so that we can see that everything is working in accordance. Perfect. Okay. So we have the walls not able to go through by the cat. Perfect. That's like half the job of a labyrinth right there. Next up, let's take a look at creating a goal. We want to have something in the middle of this labyrinth that is going to make the cat, you're trying to get to something. So we need to put something there. And since this is a winter holiday themed game, let's go ahead and use a sprite. And let's see here, let's check if we can get, nope, we do a snowman. There we go. You can't do Frosty, but you can do a snowman. So we're going to click snowman, and we're going to say this is Frosty. Now we could select the size and just kind of, just guess around until we get the right size. But instead, if we have it selected and we go to costume and we drag our box here by holding down the left mouse button to select everything, we can shrink it ourselves and get a good view when it's small enough, which I think maybe a little bit smaller. Perfect. So that'll be where Frosty is. You got to save Frosty. You got to get to Frosty the Snowman. Okay. So what we want to do is, now that we have the snowman, we need to go back to the cat, the player, because that's where a lot of the code is going to live. And what we need to do is set up a code so that when it gets to Frosty, when it touches Frosty, when it rescues Frosty, something else happens. And usually what that thing is going to happen is going to be a screen that says, good job, get ready for the next level. So let's set up the code first. We're going to go to events. We're going to grab when the green flag is clicked. We're going to go to control. We're going to grab a forever statement because we want this to always, 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 always be ready to happen. We're going to grab a if-then statement. We're going to go to sensing. We're going to get this one that says touching mouse pointer, but instead of mouse pointer, we're going to go in and change that to snowman, and then we're going to slot that into the condition for the if-then statement. We're going to go back to control. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to go to event. We're going to hit broadcast start. We're going to change that to a new message, level 2. And put that into the result of that if-then statement. So what this means is that when the cat touches the snowman, it's going to broadcast a message that says level 2. So now we need to make the stuff that's going to be affected by that broadcast. So we're going to make another big, just plain color screen. We're going to go to, instead of choose a sprite, we're going to go up to paint. We're going to select the square tool, and we're just going to draw a big old square over the whole thing to make sure it covers the actual game screen. Instead of purple, how about we do green? That's a good one. And we're going to grab the text, but before we put it down here, we're going to change the color. Let's say black, just so it stands out. And we're going to type out something like, good job, you saved Frosty. And we're going to do another, get ready for the next level. And of course you can change this, change the size. We're going to hit the pointer, change the size, all that stuff, change the positioning, whatever. And then let's go ahead and add another little button. We're going to change the color to, let's say red, a nice red button. We're going to hit the text. We're going to change that back to black. Perfect. Good, 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 good. And we're going to change this sprite, instead of saying sprite 1, we're going to change that to level 2 announce. Well, level 2 message. There we go. Or whatever you want, just whatever it takes to keep it in your mind that that's what we want to call it. Okay, so we're going to go back to code. Now for this thing, we want to kind of do the standard thing where when the flag is clicked, we don't want to see this at the start. We only want to see that opening. So when the flag is clicked, when the game is reset, we're going to go to looks, and we're going to hide this. The only time we want this to pop up is when that message of level 2 gets broadcasted. So we're going to go to events. When I receive level 2, perfect, because we can change that, but we want it to be level 2. And we're going to go back to looks, and we're going to do show. Perfect. And then we want something to happen when that button is pressed. So we're going to go back to Events. We're going to click on when this sprite is clicked. We're going to click on Broadcast. And we're going to do a new message. And this one will be Start Level 2. Excellent. So then what we need to do is create another labyrinth. So let's get started on that. We've done this before. Basically, we're going to go into Costumes. We're going to make a new costume. And using the square or the circle, if you want to do a circle labyrinth, we're just going to create a bunch of boxes inside of each other. Oops, got to take out that fill. And we're going to do the outline. That's what we want to do. There we go. So again, we're going to go back to the coding for this. And what we want to do is the same thing for the lab that we did for everything else. That when the green flag is clicked, we want the labyrinth to be hidden. But when the start message goes out, we want it to show up. Excellent. Okay, and then when we receive level 2, specifically start level 2, we want it to switch the costume from, because costume 1 is going to be the first level, costume 2 is going to be the second level. So we want to go back to looks, switch costume to costume 2. We're going to go back to that level 2 message, because what we want to do now is once it broadcasts this, once it gets clicked on, we want this green box, this green message, to hide as well. Okay, so we've done a bunch of stuff. We've set up a second level of a lab. We've set up this in-between screen. We've set up a snowman to touch on. Let's see if all of this works. And again, if it doesn't, we can always mess with it after. Oh, there we go. There's the first thing. Snowman. We forgot to code it to hide when the green flag is clicked. And then to show up when it receives the start. And to hide again when level 2 gets broadcasted. A lot of things to keep track of. Because we don't want Frosty the Snowman on the second level. We're going to have a completely different thing to rescue. All right, so let's hit stop sign, green flag to reset. Going to hit start. Okay, so what do you think happened? Exactly. For the lab, I didn't tell it which one to start with. The thing only does the best it can, and because the last one we touched was the costume 2, it doesn't know we want to do costume 1 at the start. So we need to tell that. We're going to go to looks. We're going to do switch to costume. We're going to change it to costume 1. And we're going to put that right above the show for when I receive start. Okay, let's try that again. Perfect. So we still can't go through the walls. Excellent. But I can drag my little cat to go where I want, just to make this easier and quicker. And we'll see what happens if I can get into... I made the box too small. Okay. And this is why you always, always, always test your games. Because you think it'll be just fine, but sometimes things go weird in ways you don't. Oh, we have the cat. Let's go back to the cat. We don't have a hide for the cat. So let's change that. When the green flag is clicked, we want to hide. And then when we see start, we want to show. Okay, one more time. Perfect. Excellent. Still can't go through walls. It's always good to test stuff, even stuff you've already tested, just to make sure it's still. All right. So we need to also change that event that when I receive level 2, we also hide. Right. Okay, well anyway, next level. Perfect. The next costume comes up, and we want to test one more time. All right, perfect. Next level. Then because we don't have a show up when we receive that level 2 start, the cat isn't there. So all these little things you got to keep track of, and that's why it's always a good idea to test, test, test. All right, we'll do this one more time, and then I think we're done for today. Excellent. Okay, so we've made a lot of good progress on this, and stuff that's going to really help us get the labyrinth to be created accurately and very well done. Now, what we're going to do next for the next week is finish finalizing this next labyrinth, adding a couple of obstacles that you can put into your maze labyrinth, and find a way to keep score. So tune in next time to Tuesday Evening Scratch Basics as we explore this labyrinth. Have a good night.